Episode 8. Episode 8.
Episode 8. I can't believe it.
And she just gets weirder. Oh, we just get weirder, right?
Oh, I think it could be us, yeah.
But
Should we
okay,
say what our podcast's called?
Exactly. Recorded by weirdos for weirdos. Welcome to episode 8.
And hopefully normal people like it too.
Oh man. Yeah. So yeah, welcome guys to episode 8. This is Tiffany and
Alex. Hi everybody, it's Mumbition in the house.
in the
Unity.
Listen, we're just gassed because we've come a long way, right? Episode 8.
Yeah. I'm pretty proud. I feel like, one of my ambitions for 2024, start a podcast. We're here, 8 episodes in. We've got big plans for after episode 10 where we're going to have a night out or something like that.
I know. It's all about celebrating the small wins. So yeah, always celebrate.
It really is.
Wins. Yeah. So today will be an interesting one. We're bringing the dads into the picture.
Da, da, da.
Exactly. So yeah, a slightly different topic today. It's actually inspired by Alex, so I'll let you kind of, intro it.
Okay. Well, this was inspired by my weekend last weekend, and I guess just that well, Eddie was doing the Manchester Marathon. Let me just tell you a little story, and he was obviously running the marathon on the Sunday. But he went to Manchester on Friday lunchtime.
Ooh.
And he had a night in the hotel on Friday, and then a full day in Manchester on the Saturday, and then a night in the hotel again on Saturday night to make sure he got good sleep before the run. And, I've got to give Eddie credit where it's due. He's put a lot into training. He really has worked hard for the marathon. And he did a good time. He did it in 3 hours and 17 minutes.
Woo-hoo.
And then he had another night in the hotel. And then he came back the following day. So just keeping count. That's 3 nights in a hotel.
Not that you're counting.
While Mummy and Ted were at home together, which, great. But I was just kind of reflecting on the fact that men have a different perspective on, doing stuff like that and just not feeling any guilt or shame about it, So I feel like if that had been me going off to, there's absolutely no chance that I'll be running a marathon in this life or the next. I wouldn't have thought. But if I had been going to do something like that, I've been like, right, I'll go down late on the Saturday. I might have gone down the night before, don't want to miss your train or whatever. Stayed over, and I'd probably have been on the train after a marathon coming back to just make sure that just because I would feel bad about taking that time to myself. I think that's probably what it boils down to. But I don't believe Eddie had any of those feelings of maybe I shouldn't go for 3 nights.
Wow.
And, fair enough. But I think there's definitely a different perspective going on there about how that made him feel. I don't really think he thought an awful lot of it, but once he was on the train to Manchester.
I love that. So basically living it, that is just carry on living the best life anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, that's really fascinating. So I think it sort of, the idea is that what can we actually learn from dads in terms of how they set some boundaries in their lives and perspectives? Mm-hmm. Because that's one thing that goes out the window as soon as you're becoming a mom is your boundaries and your perspective. Mm-hmm. So I think they bring such a unique perspective to us that we can actually learn from, especially if we do appreciate that we only have limited time and we want to not just be great moms, but also look after ourselves, but then also achieve our goals. So there's a lesson there really to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think you're right about the boundary setting. He was going to go and do that. And I'm sure he told me about it, but I maybe didn't listen. And it was a little bit of a surprise to me when he was like, and so I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Manchester. I was like, hang on, is the run on Saturday? What have I missed? No, it's Sunday. Okay, why are you going 2 days beforehand? And I'm sure he told me when he booked the tickets and, maybe it's on me for not going, hang on, why at the time? But yeah, definitely, he's still living the dream, 3 nights of sleep in a hotel just so tremendous. But yeah, he's definitely got that like boundaries about he wants to achieve that and he's going to set himself up to go and do that and achieve it. And I definitely feel like I will, next time I want to go and do something, have a little bit more of a, I don't want to say selfish, maybe that's not the right word, but a little bit more self-focused attitude to it of actually, let's consider how long I really need to go there for. Like I went to a business meeting in Oxford, and to not be away overnight, I went to Oxford and back on the train. Now we live in the northeast of England. Getting to Oxford is horrendous. It takes forever, and you currently have to go into central London and change to get to Oxford. So I think I spent 10 hours on a train in total that day. Yeah, 10 hours on a train.
Wow. Really?
Yes. To get to Oxford, to go to a meeting that lasted 3 hours. And I came back so that I wouldn't have to stay over.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think next time I would think, you know what, I'm taking that night in a hotel rather than, that would have been at work's expense. It's not like we were even paying for it. I might have just had a quiet night in a bath in the hotel to not be tired for work the next day, to not feel like I'd killed myself to get down there for a meeting and back. So I think that would be my thought next time of like, actually, what do I really need to do in order to do this well? Probably go down on the day, come back the following day, and not sweat the fact I've got to be away overnight.
This is it, isn't it? This is it. And it's Mark's the same, my husband's the same. He just has that level of, I'm still going to, even though I'm a dad now, I'm still going to maintain my relationships. I'm still going to try and make time for my friends. I'm going to go to the gym. And it's just this unapologetic approach to life. And I'm slightly jealous of it as well. I wish I had it. I know I probably will never be fully like that because look, there are just psychological differences, I think, with mothers and dads. But I am also inspired by how much he maintains that level of wholesomeness. Not like, oh no, I'm going out, I feel bad. Like the amount of times I feel bad about going out, it's just ridiculous. Like I remember I went to a ladies' event, I think late last year, and I remember I was I had to get up in the morning, get ready. I just felt bad all the way there. It was not until I got there and I had my first prosecco in hand that I felt slightly better. Because also another thing is, especially my children, is anytime I'm about to do something for myself, they just get really upset. It's like they know I'm heading out. They just start crying. I'm becoming a little bit like, and it just feels, and it makes you feel really bad about going. But they don't really do that to Mark. So I think also children just know that you have to do something for yourself.
Yeah, 2 for 2 spa weekends that I've been signed up to go to since Ted was born. They're meant to be 2 nights away each time. I've only gone for 1 night both times because Ted has had to go to A&E the day before both times, and it's like he knows and he hates the spa.
This is it. They know, and I think it's tricky. I don't think we'll ever get there because I think as much as we want to try to emulate certain things, I think it goes back to that book. I've never read it, but men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We are psychologically different. We've carried these children, we've bonded with them for 9 months in a way that men don't. So because of that, it's a slightly different relationship. So, but I'm still inspired to have this conversation just to create that awareness and to actually think, what can we learn from them, just to make sure that fundamentally we look after ourselves as well, because you don't want to get so lost looking after everybody else, looking after your children, looking after your husband, and then you forget about yourself.
And for me, I think as well, we shouldn't kind of underestimate the kind of societal pressure that is different on men and women. And I think, we really want to get to a point where it is more 50-50 and women aren't sort of by default the primary parent in a like straight relationship. I think, that can end up being the case, that you're the default parent. And I think it's right. Like you say there, it's, you've carried, like if you've given birth to your children, you've carried them. And I think, that the reality of them coming into your life is very clear to you when you're pregnant. You kind of can feel them moving and stuff like that. I think it's really abstract to men before they get here. And I don't know whether whether that's the kind of impact on them being able to be a bit more sort of emotionally detached, whether it's because they're socialized to be a bit less emotional and, not show their feelings as much. But I think definitely that whatever is the cause of it, it kind of gives them the ability to not sweat the small stuff. And I think that's something that, in order to have kind of balance in our lives, we've got to try not to do as well. So, like, I think it's not even just pressure around the children that ends up impacting on women and their ability to succeed. It's like the pressures around the home as well, and that often that can be taken on by women in a kind just by default. So I feel like part of it is we have to push back on that a little bit.
This is it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's not about just accepting that the way things are, but I feel like it's not something we're ever going to fully change in our generation. So I think, it is about what you can learn from their slightly different, maybe slightly annoying attitude towards parenting, that, it doesn't matter if your child's in a perfectly coordinated outfit, like, just get them dressed. That's fine. It doesn't matter if your house is a bit untidy. You don't need to have everything perfect.
This is it, Alex. I'm nodding because this morning I dressed my daughter in odd socks, and I was happy with that because they were both dressed. I was dressed. On. We went to, and it's this thing about because normally I'm quite in my head. I feel everything needs to be perfect. She needs to have perfectly perfect socks, and we need to have everything needs to look really good. But then I think what it comes down to is as a mother, you're juggling so many different things. That's what really blows my mind here. It's not just going to work. I'm going to work. I'm looking after the children. I'm supposed to also organize their lives. My son's about to start full-time nursery. I've spoken to the nursery, like, okay, next week, make sure he has a packed lunch. So I need to make sure he has a packed lunch. I need to make sure, what is he wearing next week? My daughter starts nursery. I'm thinking I need to get some trousers and, top sets for her. So it's just the many various, and then you've got to look after yourself. I've got to make sure I'm okay, right? I've got to make sure I'm sane enough to look after them. So what it is for me, what I find really, and sometimes a little bit pressurizing, it's just the variation of things there is, like the details around their life, the details of our life. For example, we're going away in about a month's time, right? So we all are a short break. I've got to get ready for that. Do we need any? Do the kids need any new clothes? So because there's so many various parts, I think that's when you have to sometimes take a step back and actually think what's important, what isn't. And why this morning those odd socks were perfect enough, because you know what, she was warm and it looks quirky. So I had to just kind of make peace with that rather than trying to spend the extra time to look for perfect socks. And this is it. Men, typically, they don't sweat the small stuff. They can easily, as long as they're dressed, they're like, look, I got them dressed. Wow, look at me. This amount of times my husband Mark would just be like, look, they're dressed. And I'm like, oh, he's wearing joggers with a shirt. Oh, I'm not sure, but they're dressed.
And also, they don't care. Like, they really don't care about their clothes. So, like, if it's for our benefit, really, more than anything, or how other people might perceive.
This is it. Yeah, I'm looking at God. Look at that woman and the odd socked kids. Oh, they probably did today. They probably shook their head at me.
Yeah, but
hey ho.
So what? Like, it's fine. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, perfection's the enemy of progress. It's like doing the thing is more important than making sure it's perfect. Like, you're still moving forward to take her to nursery with odd socks on. You've got her there. Like, that's important. Tearing your house apart looking for matching socks, whose benefit is that for? It's not helping anything, is it? So I think definitely not worrying about those little things that don't matter. I mean, I definitely don't really worry about, it depends where we're going. If Ted's going to nursery,
it's where they're going. Yeah, it's where they're going. Yeah,
non-matching, like dirt, like joggers that he's got covered in paint, because I'm like, well, they're just going to get covered in paint there again. Don't care that the stains haven't come off. He's going in those ones because I'm not reckoning another pair of trousers. Yeah, just that kind of thing. It really is fine. It doesn't matter. And, inevitably comes home with a set of clothes in a bag that are wet or dirty from playing outside. So if I bust a gut to put him in a nice little matching outfit, it would be soaking and ruined anyway.
This is it, right? Yeah.
I think when Eddie has been ill or he's tired, it's a real priority to get a nap and like take care of himself. And like, I feel really tired. And I think, when Ted was a baby and not sleeping, and I was breastfeeding, so I was awake a lot at night. I was desperate for sleep, but kind of just put it at the bottom of the list of priorities. If I'm sick, I try and struggle on with it. But it's really interesting. Eddie'll have one bad night of sleep and he's like, oh, I'm going to need a nap at the weekend. And I was like, well, no, I don't think so. Because like, I'm not just parenting downstairs while you have a nap unless you're actually sick. Like, you don't just get to go and sleep upstairs unless there's something really wrong. But his self-care, definitely a priority. Big long baths as well with the marathon running. Big long bath with Epsom salts in.
I'm laughing because this is my life.
Yeah, I think...
Is it bad to like be like, no, but I'm doing it too? Like, I don't get a break. I can't. It's same. I cannot imagine on a Saturday going, oh, I'm going to go upstairs and lie down.
Yeah, no, but maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
Fine. If you want a nap now, then I'll have a nap when you're done. Or you to him, you can have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I do.
This is it. It's crazy how you don't think like that because you're just so used to not necessarily self-punishing. It's just used to sacrificing your own desires as a mother. And I do get that. I know it's important because I do think, again, we're in this unique position where, we do have that kind of primary maternal nurturing role. But it's interesting how we just self-care just goes out the window. But coming back to this conversation, it's more about accepting things as they are, right? It's from a psychological perspective, but also understanding by sweating the small stuff, by overthinking everything, by trying to be everything, what are we losing out on? Are we really then leaving less time to actually, prioritize our ambitions, prioritize our goals? Because that's what will suffer if we're not careful trying to be everything and do everything. This is it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the amount of time that's just wasted on things that don't really matter, and that's time you could be using to further your ambitions, to prioritize yourself, even just to have a nap. Making sure that I get that there's kind of a basic standard that you want to maintain around your house. I think trying to make sure everything's perfect,
lower your standards, ladies. Just
I'm all for standards. Like, no, I definitely am. I think I have to say, like, I've got a couple of male friends who I've lived with in the past who would testify to the fact I've got quite low standards. The couple of male friends that me and Catherine lived with, they were like, they wouldn't live with us again because we were too messy.
Oh, wow.
But I have like a minimal standard of, how I want my house to be. I want it to be tidy enough to be relaxing. I want it to be clean enough to, again, like, just not get me down. But I'm not bothered that it isn't perfect. I'm not bothered if there's a basket of washing that needs to be put away. It's clean. Like, that's fine. And I think I'm relatively good at not sweating the small stuff, but I feel like it's something that I know from conversations with other people, they might reload the dishwasher because their partner hasn't done it how they want them to. Whereas I wouldn't. I would literally be like, it's full, it's fine, turn it on. But I think, in fact, it's almost the reverse in our household, that Eddie doesn't like how I hang out washing. So I don't really do any washing because he gets really upset about how I've hung it on the clothes horses to dry and stuff. And I think he could actually take a bit of a lesson from other men on not sweating the small stuff because he can be quite anal about that kind of thing. But I still definitely waste time doing other things purely because of expectation. Being the one who's kind of in charge of all Ted's medical appointments and doctor's appointments and dentist and stuff like that, that's all on me. And I think, the stuff you were saying before that you haven't organized your kids, it's called the mental load. It's like the stuff that you're mentally carrying. all the time. And I think working out how to let some of that go, and like you say, working out what's important, what matters, and not worrying about some of the stuff, or making sure that other people pick it up. So I'll say to Eddie stuff like, you need to get Ted's bag ready, because he maybe won't remember otherwise, but the other option is doing it myself. So I feel like you can empower yourself to get a bit of time back by asking for things, even though you probably shouldn't have to. Maybe it should be more automatic.
But they don't always think about these things. You just don't.
And I just think, the more you ask for people to help, the more it becomes second nature for A, you to ask, and B, for them to do it. They're like expecting that they should be doing that. So I would recommend that to anyone, of kind of push back on some of the little things you're expected to do.
This is a good point, because I think we also sometimes might get frustrated with our partners or husbands, because you think, surely you've seen that, because I have in the past. But I think this is the quickest way to ruin your relationship, is thinking men think like women. And this is a topic for another time, but men are typically, anyway, we're not, talking about.
Not all men, hashtag.
Yeah, not all men, but don't quote me. But no, men are different from women. They think different from women. They approach conversations different from women. And I think once you appreciate that, then you can start to think, actually, he hasn't done that to be annoying. He just hasn't noticed. The amount of, especially my husband, is the amount of things he doesn't notice. I'm like, you didn't notice the dishes were all over the sink. He just didn't notice. But once I ask, he will do it. But it just doesn't wake up and think, oh, let me tidy up the house just like I would. So, and I think it's having that, once you have the understanding, then you can approach it from a healthier perspective and actually just ask. And I even tell my husband now, I said, set a reminder on your phone to clean up the dishes, because he forgets and it annoys me. So once you do that and you appreciate that they're not doing it on purpose, and then, like you said, just ask and then assume and just keep asking and tell them to set reminders to remember, and just allow people to, like I said, allow things to be imperfect, because if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. The most important things is the children are healthy, they're happy, you have a good relationship, and you're sane, and you're well enough within yourself to be a good mom and to be a good human being. But it's there's a lot of details that we just lose sight of.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I definitely have found that asking is really effective. You don't have to take everything on yourself. You really don't. But if you're just sort of sitting stewing, expecting someone to pick up on the fact you're irritated they haven't done it, it's much quicker and easier to ask, and ask in a relatively nice way. I mean, we're not here to like mother our husbands as well. For sure, I don't want a third. Sorry, I only have one child. I don't want a second child in my. I definitely want like a partner who considers this sort of thing, but saying, can you take that bag of recycling out, because it's annoying me that it's sitting there. He'll happily do it. He just probably doesn't care that it's really full. And I think that delegation, it's got to be better than doing it all yourself and being really angry with everyone because you are having to carry everything.
Yeah, this is where I've had to migrate to. This place of asking and not being annoyed and thinking you need to do everything. Oh, I'm doing everything. Oh my God, this is so hard. This is it. And I think it's just that consciousness. But hey, it's not going to be perfect. We will always do majority of it, but can we just make more of a conscious effort to move forward? And on that note, tonight I have a ladies event ladies night out that I'm going to, night in that I'm going to. So that'll be really fun.
Nice.
And I'll try not to feel bad about it whilst I'm drinking my Prosecco.
Yeah, well, we're both going to a baby shower tomorrow, aren't we? And
there you go. This is another thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're actually out together tomorrow. Yeah. Hooray. And that's mid-afternoon. And I said, well, I'm probably going to stay out for a few drinks afterwards. To Eddie.
I will as well.
Oh, but you're going to a baby shower. And I was like, yeah, but the non-pregnant people probably will drink.
I'll be drinking tomorrow, by the way. So it'll be really great. I think, again, it's just little things like this that it's always nice to do, and women tend to do less of when they have children.
Well, I said I'm not rushing back for bedtime tomorrow. So yeah, we're actually going to be able to have some conversation in person. We haven't seen each
Yeah,
other for a bit.
I know. Without the children around screaming their heads off. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, really great. Another interesting episode. What do you want to wrap this one up, Alex? Fine.
Yeah, okay. So I think the top things that we could learn from men are to not sweat the small stuff, to prioritize yourself and your own self-care. I mean, I'm being a bit facetious here. And just setting those boundaries and really just learning to not sweat the small stuff, not have everything need to be perfect. You're doing a great job. Mums are the best.
Moms are the best.
Mums are the best.
Hashtag moms are the best.
But not everything has to be done to a standard of perfection. Give yourself some grace.
This is it. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, and we'll see you for the next one. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.